Hi, this is Michael Waits recording live from Money 2020 Asia 2025 in Bangkok. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Insurance for the New Possible, where we discuss the future of finance, technology, and insurance. We are joined today by Rachel Freeman, the Chief Growth Officer at Tyme. Thank you so much for joining us at Money 2020 Asia, and thank you so much for joining the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael, for having time and having me on the show.
It is my complete pleasure. I could not wait to meet you in person. Quickly, for our viewers, what is Tyme? And I don't mean metaphorically. I mean, what is Tyme? T-Y-M-E. And what is its mission?
First, Tyme is actually T-Y-M-E.
Right.
So originally, the idea was take your money everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because our original roots were actually in mobile money. And so that made sense then. And we love the name. You can make tons of puns out of Tyme as well.
Yeah, I tried, but
Yes.
obviously I was not successful enough.
Well,
I mean, you
Tyme is
smiled.
the bank in Philippines. So
Oh, right.
we're very good at that.
Got it.
So Tyme, we're a multi-country digital banking group. Our flagship operation is in South Africa,
Okay.
where we have over 11 million customers.
Oh, wow.
We then opened our second bank in the Philippines, which is called GoTyme Bank, where we're over 6 million customers. And the next on the map is going to be Indonesia.
Wow. What's the population of South Africa, if you remember? I don't know, but I know
It's
Indonesia's
around 60 million.
6 million, right? So I just wanted to get
And Philippines is around
100 something million, yeah.
110 million.
And Indonesia's
yeah.
270 million people.
Yeah,
so that'll
so
be your
we're
biggest country
doubling.
and your biggest market.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it
go
will
ahead.
be our biggest market, but we're ready for Indonesia now.
Yeah, it's almost like the Philippines. I won't say it was practiced because I don't mean to be derogatory, but it's like if you can go into that market, you should be able to go into the Indonesian market as well.
Well, actually, what we say is that, and what we tell partners is that when you do the first bank, you make all the mistakes you're going to make when you do a first bank.
That's kind of what I meant.
And then when you go to the second one, you've already done them, so you can be so much better. When we get to bank 3, we're just not going to make all the stupid mistakes ever again.
Is that like a second marriage in a way?
I don't know. I haven't been there yet.
Good for you. So how can Tyme serve a global population or such a large population that live on subsistence wages, right? But still need and can benefit from banking and financial services? How do you do this?
So our mission is to unlock human potential. We take that very seriously. And so I'll give some statistics first. In South Africa, of our 11 million customers, over 3 million of our customers live on under $2 a day or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we bank them profitably. And about 75% of our customers are considered low income in South Africa.
Okay.
It's Philippines is about 45%. But in South Africa, where we launched, we really came in with a financial access approach, a financial inclusion approach. And one of the interesting things that we've done in South Africa is partner with the government to serve those people who live solely on social welfare grants. They're called SASAs, these social grants. And our social grant recipients, we actually put in and changed our onboarding process to be able to onboard them very easily. And then what we do is that we smooth out the grant transfers. So often the grants can be delayed a bit. And what we do is similar to early wage access, we consider this like a wage and we smooth out the grants, which gives people a lot of time that they were standing in lines for back. And then we help them learn financial access.
So how do you turn that into a profitable product, right?
Well, actually, it's because our cost base is so low.
But is it cost base low because of technology or is it just because, sorry, go ahead.
The cost base is one, low because of technology and the cloud-based bank, all of the technology that we have. And the second is that our onboarding mechanism is very different from incumbent banks, but it's also quite different from the other digital banks. We install kiosks into grocery stores. So we started with national retail chains, and we have a kiosk and an ambassador. So when you walk into the store, you can open a bank account in under 3 minutes in South Africa. And we also have the kiosks operating in the social grant offices as well. So you can get a bank account in 3 minutes, and at the end of that time, a Visa debit card comes out with your name on it from the kiosk. And you can take that card, immediately put money in at the cash register.
So how do you handle KYC?
It's KYC
under 3 minutes?
Because actually the kiosk, while you're standing in front of it and answering a few questions, the kiosk is taking pictures and taking the data that you're putting through, including in South Africa, the national ID, and checking with all the databases. So the kiosk looks very cool, and it is
Right.
very cool, but it's actually an amazing machine with lots of AI. You can quickly check all of the databases, and our KYC is better than manual KYC.
So is it a digital ID in South Africa?
So it's a national ID.
Right.
In
So
South
like it is in
Africa.
Thailand. Yeah, everyone has one.
And yes, in Philippines, no. So that's why it takes 5 minutes in the Philippines.
5 minutes.
Because there are about 8 different types of IDs, and means that we have to do a little bit more processing on that side. But 5 minutes is still faster than almost any bank to get actually a hit live debit card you can hold in your hand.
So we had a whole conversation last night around dinner around digital ID, why it was necessary, why you need to be verified, and why it was so hard to open a bank account globally. I'm curious if what's the right way to say it? So if I'm an immigrant to South Africa, I don't know if that's easy to do or hard to do.
Well, actually, if you're an immigrant that is a legal immigrant in South Africa,
Yep.
then you're actually going to be able to have an ID.
So I can
and
get the
then we
same services that a local
Right.
can get.
But if you're not a legal
Sure.
one, we actually are not able to serve you.
Yeah, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't be able to verify who they were, right? Because they don't have a
Yes.
national ID.
Yeah, and so far, actually, we haven't opened our full bank account to immigrants yet, but we will be doing that in the future. We're quite focused on the South African citizenship market
Interesting.
right now.
So what are some of the challenges you have? I mean, it sounds really simple to open up a bank account. How easy is it for you to go into like a new country or just to operate in the markets where you're building?
All right. Well, first of all, when we look at markets, we think, what is our mechanism? And so we have to find a retailer. There's a whole process for licensing, but that's the same for any bank. But for us, what's most important is to secure a retailer partnership.
When you say a retail, you mean just like
Grocery stores,
grocery stores? Okay.
like real retailers.
Yeah,
like
I just
the real
want to make sure.
thing.
Just want to make sure that I understood.
So, like in South Africa, our retailers are actually commercial partnerships. We work with Pick and Pay. We work with TFG. So those are big national retail groups that we work with.
What was the idea around a grocery store as opposed to like a clothing store?
Well, first, a grocery store with a national chain that you do one integration so that then you can do cash in, cash out at all of the grocery stores, and we only do one integration.
Right.
That means cost effective
Yep.
for us. The other thing is that we believe that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today I want to go get a bank account. It never happens. No one ever does that.
That's not true. That's not true, but I understand the sentiment. But the idea is everyone needs food.
And people trust their grocery store, and they go a lot. So
Yeah.
maybe the first time they see the kiosk, they won't open an account. Maybe the 5th time, but by the 10th time, and they see our ambassadors walking around the store, they're curious, they open an account. So actually, it's because there's high footfall, but it's repeat footfall.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference for
I go to
us.
the same supermarket every time I shop.
Exactly.
And I presume most people
And
do.
if you saw an interesting, cool kiosk there, you
I
think,
would
what
definitely
is
try
this?
to figure out what
and
it was.
if there was an ambassador who said, explains all the products, does some financial literacy training, it's very easy.
So once you establish yourself in a market, I forget the number of
Yeah.
clients you said you had in the Philippines, but it was a big number.
Over 6 million.
Yeah, over 6 million. It's a lot, right? Yeah. 6% of the population, give or take. My math isn't that great, but yeah, approximately there. How do you facilitate more and more growth? Is it word of mouth? Is it how do you do that? Because you've been growing pretty fast anyway. Yeah?
Well, first of all, it's about actually thinking about where to deploy more. First of all, kiosks and how you do that. So in the Philippines, we're doing something we did not do it in South Africa. We put kiosks into workplaces. So there are large workplace and offices. We have the kiosks there. That's something new that we did not do in South Africa. That's been quite interesting.
Right.
And then we develop really interesting partnerships. What we think are one of our superpowers is being able to partner so it's beneficial for both. And when we think about a company like Chubb, for example, we could think, how do we partner with them so that it really works for both of us, and we can take that partnership to many countries. And that's the same we do on our technology side. We do this in terms of all the different types of partnerships we have. And here at Money 2020, we're here because we're moving quickly into remittances in the Philippines, both inward and outward. And this is a great place to meet all the different players in the remittance market. So that's why we're here at Money.
You want to partner with a remittance partner.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Because you don't want to build that yourself.
We don't need to build ourselves.
No.
There's great companies here.
Some super duper great companies that do
so
remittances.
we can do that.
Can I ask you this? In countries like the Philippines, in Thailand, where I reside, and even in Indonesia, and probably in South Africa, I'm guessing, there's kind of a little bit of a divide between what life is like in the big cities, where the concentration of people is very high,
Yes.
and in the countryside. And if you want to have real impact, which
Yes.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I can feel it. How do you get that effective penetration in the countryside as well? Because sometimes even the retailers there are different.
Right. So that's why in the Philippines, when I said one of the most important things about thinking of moving into a new country is
Right.
selecting the right retailer. And in the Philippines, the Go Conway Group is our equity partner.
And they're everywhere.
And they're everywhere. They also have Cebu Pacific. That's their line, which democratized air travel in the Philippines. So we actually look to work with the retailer that has that breadth there.
We had Mike on the show, actually, the CEO of Cebu Pacific.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
And we're doing really interesting things in loyalty as well.
Can you tell me how that works? Like, how does I get how a retail shop on the ground can partner with you. You walk in there all the time. Like I said before, I shop at the same store all the time. The kiosk is there. The ambassador is there, so I can ask them a question.
Yeah.
But where does the airline fit in?
So actually, loyalty is really big for us. So what happens is if you are using the GoTyme account, then you get a certain amount of points. And you get more points if you use your GoTyme bank card in one of the Robinsons retails. And that is linked up because Robinsons has the retail plus airlines all one loyalty. So you can see how very quickly we can be partnering together with Cebu Pacific.
So do you think you can facilitate the ability for people that may not be able to afford to fly on their own to garner enough points to be able to get the benefit of having the loyalty program on an airline?
That's what we talk about in terms of win-win.
How do we do this, right?
If you use more, you buy more at Robinson's retail stores, you're going to be able to get the points to go on your air travel. And we facilitate and kind of make all of that happen as the bank in that ecosystem.
So you have this low cost base. You have this really interesting way to do customer acquisition, like the kiosk thing. It sounded more like a Netflix thing to me, which started off with these kiosks in the malls. I mean, I never saw one because I haven't lived in the States in 35 years. But that's a really cool innovation. But what other things do you look for when you're going into a country? You said you're going to expand to, can I say it, to Indonesia, right?
Yes.
So how do you consider GDP per capita, population concentration, all these other things? How do you think about it?
So we look at one, of course, all of the macroeconomic parts to this, and we think about that. That's, of course, population has to be high. We're looking at large population countries. We're looking at kind of where the demographics are going. But the other key thing is that as we operate regulated financial institutions, they are regulated banks. So we need to think, we're going to be working closely with those regulators. There needs to be a really progressive approach to regulation, and you have that in the Philippines, you have that in Indonesia. And so things like being able to operate in the cloud, how data is stored, all of those little things actually can play a major role in making sure that we can operate in the country. So there's a whole checklist we have in terms of on the regulatory side.
Right.
If you have to have a wet signature opening account, we cannot work there.
Right.
If you don't have the ability to check with the kiosk on the databases, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be hard for us to work. So there are a whole host of things that we look for. And once we think this is the right country for us, then we think, what is the best retail partnership that we have there? And we go and talk with the retailers first, because we know that we can figure out the banking side, but we need to secure that really perfect partnership for us first. And then we start to build together.
Do you also partner with banks as well? Because there are all these bigger banks, right? And I was talking about this with somebody earlier, where they have the ability to do like credit analysis and stuff like that, but they don't have any way to access the customers you're accessing, right? Because their embedded cost systems are just too high.
So we do in one product in South Africa work with one of the larger banks.
Right.
But generally, since our ambition is to be one of those big banks,
I get it.
and we want to be either the top retail or one of the top 3 retail banks in every country we work, then we actually view ourselves that we're on the heels of all those banks right now. So there's not as much of a partnership opportunity there.
And again, I'm not an expert in your field at all. So I have there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, which I'm sure you're aware of, where if you're good at one thing, you think you're good at everything. Yes. I do not have this. I know the things that I'm good at and bad at. I'm just curious because I do a lot of reading and studying business and business models. And I thought what Netflix did at the beginning was really interesting, right? They licensed a lot of content from people just to get their eyeballs. And as soon as they started getting all the eyeballs, well, 2 things happened, at least at scale. One is the big content companies were like, hey, we thought this was just going to be like the Lithuanian army. We weren't afraid of them at all. And now they have 120 million subscribers. And the second thing was Netflix said, hey, guess what? we don't need your content anymore, and we're going to spend $9 to $10 million a year on our own content after we co-opted all of your fans. So that's the only thing I was thinking about. But I understand this being on the heels of them, right?
Yeah. So when we launched in South Africa, we had the largest footprint with our cash in, cash out through the grocery stores and our kiosks than all of the banks that had branches.
Put up kiosks?
And that was, on day zero
Right.
when we had no customers. So we continue to look at interesting partnerships and how to expand to meet customers in all parts of the country, in South Africa and the Philippines.
And do you provide the full range of banking services to these people that had previously been either underbanked or unbanked, like credit and stuff like that?
We are in the process of doing that. So one thing that we're looking quite hard on is we are, looking to launch credit card. We don't have that product yet, but that's something that is definitely on the roadmap that we're going to be doing. Credit card.
That's super cool.
That's very important for us. So we right now are mainly a retail bank, and then we have a really interesting SME lending product that we do, and we white label that through partners. So, in the future, we have lots of different things that we think we'll be doing, but right now we don't have like a full SME bank. We don't have that yet. And also we don't see ourselves ever going to corporate.
Yeah.
We'll stay SME and retail.
So you just reminded me of something. I had a conversation earlier this morning, right? Where the woman was talking to me about a BNPL, a buy now, pay later product,
Yes.
right? So again, serving the underserved.
Yeah.
And the idea had always been for BNPL. And I told her this, like I grew up really poor. So like most of my clothes when I were a kid were bought on what we called layaway.
Oh yeah.
I'd go into Marshall's with my mom. We'd do layaway, right? 3 months later I'd have pants. The product's slightly different now. But one of the things she said was there were some unintended consequences of providing buy now, pay later. One of which was little merchants, micro SMEs, would go buy things where normally they had to pay cash for them, right? But now they can BNPL them.
Yes.
So their cash flow changes, which means they can buy more products, which means they can make more money. So even if you don't go to corporate, there may be a way that someone gets your services and uses it for something you don't intend.
We actually, that is the case. We actually have a really interesting product for those small merchants that we do called Merchant Cash Advance. A couple of years ago, we acquired a company in South Africa called Retail Capital, and we've integrated Retail Capital into South Africa as part of all of Tyme, and now brought that product in it's live in Indonesia already, in the Philippines, and we're going into a couple of countries. And that we actually work with payment providers, point of sale, to offer unsecured SME loans to those smaller merchants, which is, I guess it's similar to buy now, pay later, but we think it's better because it's actually a fee-based product that we provide for those small businesses.
Right. I mean, uniquely,
we can score them quite well.
Yeah. I mean, uniquely, you're actually able to serve underserved both in business, in a business sense, but also on an individual sense, and still build a system that's, what's the right word? Efficient enough.
Yes.
So that you can actually turn a profit as well. And to be fair, I was having a conversation with a venture capitalist sitting here, Quona Capital, who was saying their whole thesis for investing is they see no conflict between impact and making money.
Right. We have many impact investors and our shareholder, our cap table. And we are providing them. I think we now are in the pole position of providing the best impact as well as the highest return.
Is there a pride internally? Who was I talking to about this morning? Yeah, I think it was the BNPL guest. No, it was the woman from the company in Vietnam. And she was saying once they rebranded and once they started growing really quickly, internally there was this sense of pride. Like, I want to wear the company t-shirt so that people know that I've been part of this thing that's growing really well and serving a bunch of people that hadn't been served before. You know what I mean? Are people proud to wear the Tyme t-shirt around in the Philippines?
Yes, everybody's proud. And some interesting things that we've done recently is that we're sponsoring both the men's and women's national football team in the Philippines for the World Cup. And
are you really?
I think and I can't tell you how exciting it is to see those players. We have the Go Tyme logo in their practice t-shirt. There's a lot of pride that we have because we see that we're making a real difference in the countries that we're operating, and we're changing people's lives. And that makes all of us feel like we're on the right track to do more of that.
I'm going to end on that. Rachel Freeman, the Chief Growth Officer at Tyme. TYME, take your money everywhere. Thanks for doing that.